There's no way that this is going to get any better. So that's why I wonder, if Donald Trump were to just get rid of Pam Bondi, which I doubt, I don't think he's going to get anyone who is better than Pam Bondi for the DOJ, because Donald Trump needs a partisan, like hack, some literally crazy person willing to bend every single rule, willing to even break the rules. Right now, they just were found to be breaking the law. The cases of James Comey and Letitia James were dismissed. Why? Because they broke the law. Why they broke the law? Because they had appointed a Republican, career Republican prosecutor, Erik Siebert, and Erik Siebert was named to the East District of Virginia so that he could prosecute James Comey and Letitia James. He was appointed back in May. And once you appoint an interim, temporary interim prosecutor, you have 120 days for Congress to confirm this person so they can finally approve it. Congress didn't approve it, the Senate. So after 120 days, what the law says is that now the district court has the authority, not the executive anymore. The executive can name somebody for the first time, but once it's over 120 days, it's up to the district court. Now, the district court has two options. They can either name a new prosecutor or they can extend the period of the original interim temporary prosecutor appointed by the president. So this way, now that person can remain in that position, but it was confirmed by the district court. And that's exactly what happened. They looked at this guy and they said, okay, it's been more than 120 days. Congress didn't, confirm you. So what we're going to do is that we're going to extend your position here so that you can keep working on this. But then this guy turns around, Erik Siebert, the Republican, and tells Donald Trump, hey, we don't have enough evidence here. There's no proof to actually go after James Comey and Letitia James. And Donald Trump was mad as hell. What are you talking about proof? Who said we needed proof? I just need you to freaking indict these people. And this guy said, there's no way. I'm not going to do it. So he declined prosecuting. All the people in his same district declined. They had to bring in, what's her name? I was going to say Pam Bondi. Lindsey Halligan. They brought in Lindsey Halligan, an insurance lawyer who happened to be Trump's own personal lawyer, that she was part of the Mar-a-Lago classified documents case. And she has zero experience, and it showed zero experience managing criminal cases. And they brought her in, and she didn't even know how to do, the whole process they had to do for, creating the documents for the charges, the accusations, and everything. They had to bring in two prosecutors from different areas or districts to pretty much support Lindsey Halligan so they can now move ahead with the indictments and indict James Comey and Letitia James, and they did. But everything fell apart. It was an absolute disaster. And why it was completely thrown out, they didn't even get to the merits of the case. The judge literally dismissed both cases because the naming of Lindsey Halligan was legal. Why? Because after 120 days, once that period expires, after they named the first Republican, which was Erik Siebert, Donald Trump didn't have legal authority to actually name a second prosecutor to his liking. This is why Congress amended this law. Like, I think if I'm not mistaken, it was around 2013 they did it, or maybe a little bit earlier. Why? Because the Bush administration had been literally mocking, the separation of branches of power, and they were trying to just sidestep the confirmation process by the Senate. So what they would do, the Bush, George W. Bush administration, what they would do is they would name an interim, temporary, for 120 days, a prosecutor, and then after the 120 days, they would name another one. And that way they could just, tell Congress, screw you. We don't need you. We're just going to keep naming more interim prosecutors. And that way we bypass the confirmation. And we can always have a loyalist person here, even if this doesn't go, in favor of the best interests of the country. We don't care. We just want to name somebody to our liking. And Congress at some point said, you can't do that. We're going to give you the chance. And they amended the law. You're going to get one chance to name a person. And you have 120 days to convince us to confirm this person. If that doesn't happen, then that power to name a second person or to even extend the authority for this person to stay, for the current one to stay, that's going to go to the district court. That's how they block the executive from, mocking the whole process and sidestepping Congress, so that now there was some level of, normalcy and a sense of also, respect for the rule of law. There's a confirmation process for a reason, and you just can't avoid that because you want to keep bringing on people that would not pass, the confirmation process for whatever reason, because maybe they're corrupt, because maybe they have conflict of interest. And these are things that Congress will always, try to prevent from happening, even though there's always partisan support and sometimes at some point they're going to compromise. But even then, remember, Congress didn't want to confirm Matt Gaetz. Donald Trump wanted Matt Gaetz to become, you look at that, a guy who is literally being investigated for sex trafficking with a minor and even using drugs with a minor and consuming alcohol, apparently. This is, according to the report, this literally is one of the worst candidates that you can think of. But Donald Trump said, this is precisely the guy that I need. This is the guy that I need. Why? Because he needs me. If I'm able to, keep him in government, if I'm able to put him there, he's going to be able to control his own investigations and have access to the information and to the proof, and he's going to be able to stop it. But then he's going to protect me too. If I protect him, he's going to protect me. That's what he wanted. That's why he wanted Matt Gaetz. But even then, Congress said, bro, again, this is a little bit too far. We know you're going to bring some crazy people back into the swamp. You were supposed to drain the swamp, but you want to actually, expand the swamp. But this is just a little bit too far, even by swamp standards. And they said no to Matt Gaetz. So this is why the confirmation process is so important. And it applies also to these, U.S. prosecutors. So unfortunately, that's what Donald Trump tried to do. And then he fired the guy just because the guy was honest and by the book and say, hey, as much as I would like to, to help and do my job is to actually follow the proof, the evidence. And there's no evidence here. Normally in law, and, in a court of law, you start with a crime and you work backwards, investigating the evidence to see where it's going to lead you. With you guys, what I'm seeing here is a pattern that you want to start with a name and then work your way backwards to find some sort of a crime somewhere. And that is not a good thing. Even the judge had to state that. So I'm telling you, it's a complete failure and it's an embarrassment for the country. But then the question is, if he replaces Kash Patel or Pam Bondi or, drunken, Pete Hegseth, is there any better candidate that you think Donald Trump is going to go for? Do you guys believe that Donald Trump is going to try to find some really, I don't know, just good person who's going to go by the book, is going to respect the Constitution and, slam the brakes whenever something shady is going on, when Trump is pushing for something that is actually unlawful, to bend the rules and all of that? Of course not.